Eric Adams marrying into the Erusian royal family.
Wonderful.
Eric Adams is the 2D Dalton JPEG.
Aured is the Griswold of Osea. This is rapidly testing the limits of my knowledge of Strange Reel.
We had a pretty large bang associated with the caution and warning now. Okay, as we have an apparent serious oxygen leak. 4, 3, 2, 1. Houston, we've had a problem. He's in a roll and he can't stop it. Performing an evasive maneuver. Okay, Houston, we've had a problem here. I think we need to do a little more all-weather testing. Welcome to space.
Hello, listener, and welcome to Failure to Launch, the space history podcast where we take you through all the mistakes, failures, and explosions that made modern space exploration possible. We are your hosts, Quinn, he, him.
Chris, he, him.
And an EP Chris, he, him.
And today, we are talking about Laesath's Winged Angel, or Diego Gaspar Navarro's Folly. We're talking about the Gleipnir.
If you can see it, you've already got problems.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, picture the world's biggest and most expensive flying fortress in your head. That's the Gleipnir. Now picture it being built by a war-torn country ruled by its richest man.
And now you can't see it.
Exactly. Yeah. So yeah, any longtime listener of this show is probably aware of superweapons. And I'm not going to try and define them exactly since no one has come up with a good enough definition. It's kind of like generations of aircraft and
then you have Chandelier, then you have the ground-based stuff.
Exactly. Like I guess it's when it starts being used as a weapon, but I was going to say, when does a asteroid prevention device become a super weapon? And what even makes a weapon super? I don't know.
If it's super...
Yeah, like at what point of a generation, how many generations ahead does a fighter jet have to be for it to be a super weapon compared to, I don't know, let's say 5th gen today? I don't know, maybe 2. I have a feeling like 6th gen is kind of becoming more accepted, but the 7th gen stuff, oh well. But super weapons are generally the territory of 2 kinds of countries. The first is, of course, superpowers. Countries like Osea or Yuktobania with the industrial base and military funding to be able to build flying aircraft carriers or megasubs without destroying their economy. The second kind of country is crackpot dictatorships, who will absolutely destroy their economies while dump trucking funding into hyperweapon projects because they just don't give a shit.
Hell yeah!
That's everyone's favorite.
It's our favorite specifically too, or in this case, not because he doesn't care about the economy, but because the person in charge of the hyperweapons project also owns the company that they are buying it from. So
there's 0 conflicts of interest that could be occurring.
There are
here.
no conflicts of interest in Laesath because there is only one interest, and that is Diego Gaspar fucking Navarro.
There is no conflict. There's simply Diego.
Yeah. It's a state of mind. Square brackets, it's like Juche in North Korea, but it's just called Diego thought.
What the fuck is North Korea?
I said square brackets.
Oh, okay.
That's my I'm going out of character very briefly. Close brackets.
Yeah, you simply you simply have some wrong thing, and then you
fail RP.
But no, seriously, you have a little bit of wrong thought, and you briefly get ridden by the soul of Diego Gaspar Navarro. You have to full name him every time.
Well, in fairness, in this script, I do have him written as DGN a whole bunch of times. But oh well.
That's disrespect right there, brother.
He deserves disrespect. Also, I don't know if anyone can take on his soul, because I'm pretty sure he's still alive. I think he's hiding in I don't know, Kaluga or something.
Listen, he's astral projecting into you.
So, yes, audience, we are finally tackling a long requested topic. The crown jewel of Laesath's Air Force, the Gleipnir. As part of this, we are going to discuss how an impoverished nation in the middle of a brutal civil war managed to build not just any flying fortress, but the largest and likely most advanced ever yet seen, flat out.
All I know is this bitch got roll authority.
Yes, and I'm going to spoil things a bit. The answer to that question is rampant corruption of one man. Also, if anyone is concerned about whether or not this is a space topic strictly, the Gleipnir had ballistic missiles, and a whole lot of bad things happened to all of its crew who went up. Therefore, I am saying that this is well within our show's remit. Yeah, this is what we love talking about. Also, I just want to talk about South Osea. You know, I feel like not enough people talk about South Osea. There's a lot of cool
Getting
stuff.
some South Osean representation.
Yeah, and because there's a whole lot of history left on the table, you know, that like no one else has come and grabbed. Sorry, South Oseans, we love you. This is not just a quick cash grab, or my way of swiftly rocketing us to the #1 podcast in Aurelia.
Nah, I'm gonna code switch again. Fuck y'all coming from Belka.
What? Okay, like I'm just trying to parse that. That's on the wrong side of the continent, my dude.
Do I give a fuck?
Or are you just going to like pick nations off a map and decide to insult them individually?
Belka's everywhere, home slice.
No, you can't Belka. Where is Belka in my heart?
Yeah.
Listen, just like someone on that weird fucked up planet Earth has 3 stripes on my heart. Nah, we're here repping Belka.
I know this sounds like a funny thing to notice, but just the anytime there's a new war, more dipshits have new tattoos to get.
No, breaking the we're gonna fail our RP a little bit. What was the Belka equivalent of 3 Skippy?
I just think there have to be like military dipshits who have every Ace Squadron logo tattooed on them. Oh, someone who was really into Ofnir and Grabacher, and then suddenly they turn traitor and you have to like get it lasered off. Like, oh, 8492 was my favorite. Come on.
Shit.
How would you know? That's a secret.
I know. Whatever. Sue me.
Fail RP.
Fail RP. Yeah, the 8492nd Tactical Fighter Squadron does not exist, has never existed, and Belkan aggressor trainers are not a thing.
Yeah, that's right.
Now, as we get into this, I need to admit up front that researching this specific topic was pretty difficult with how, recent it all was. It means that there's an infinite amount of clickbait articles about the crushing success of the Gleipnir, and then just as many a week later about its destruction. But there's very few actually good research documents I could rely on. Like our show on the Arkbird, I mostly relied on the work of aviation journalist Albert Jeanette, who followed the war on site from Griswold, as well as a few articles in Frontline magazine. As always, everything will be linked down below in the show notes.
Laesath Civil War.
Now, we don't have a lot of exact details on the development and initial use of the Gleipnir. Expect to hear me say that a whole lot. We don't even know its official name or class designation. I assure you, I have done what I can to find as much useful info as possible, but it's an uphill battle. The Flying Fortress was first designed and built during the Laesath Civil War, in a country that was actively being torn apart by multiple warring factions, so it's unlikely that many people were focused on detailed note-taking at the time. Furthermore, between the new, i.e. current Laesath government and the purges of the old guard Navaristas, it is likely that a lot of the information on the Gleipnir class was either destroyed or fled the country with those scientists.
Ooh.
I know. The best part being, up until now, we've made all these jokes about, like, the Raldites, the Belkan scientists fleeing south, fleeing to Laesath, Aurelia, and now we've got the scientists fleeing back north.
Yeah, it goes both ways, fuckers.
Yeah, well, I'm sure they're going to find, if they have not already been caught, I'm sure they're going to find gainful employment in some other crackpot dictatorship.
Yeah, but they're going to end up facing the wall in one of them.
Yeah.
Do you know what the crackpot dictatorship job market's even like right now?
Ooh. Well, I don't, there's got to be a few out there. So honestly, I would consider the best and most reliable sources on the Gleipnir combat records from the Aurelian Air Force, who actually fought the thing. For all its logistical idiocy, the Gleipnir was a combat powerhouse that decimated the AAF. And I do not just mean that in the decimated equals did a whole lot of damage way. I mean that more than 1 in 10 of all AAF combat losses were inflicted specifically by the Gleipnir.
What? Jesus.
Yes, I mean that this one plane had that big of an impact, both military and psychological, on the course of this war. And we are going to talk about that later because it actually becomes a problem for Laesath eventually.
It just puts that big of a target on its head.
So, I mean, minor spoiler for later on, but like, the Gleipnir is such an effective psychological weapon that a huge number of Aurelian military units surrender without a fight. The problem being that means that they are still intact and they are fresh and ready to fight for when things turn around. So as soon as the war starts turning around, as soon as Aurelia gets its feet back under it, a whole bunch of military units that have surrendered just pick up their guns and start shooting again.
Ruh-roh.
Uh-oh.
Uh-oh,
Dang, maybe
sinkies.
we should have disarmed those guys faster. As such, learning about the Gleipnir was a massive priority for the Aurelians so that they could properly fight it. And because it would be self-sabotage to lie to their pilots about the thing, I generally trust their numbers more than old Laesath propaganda figures. Again, I wish this was not the case. I don't like relying on he said, she said, but it's the reality of the situation talking about a weapons system with so little definitive written on it. And no, this episode is not going to be 50% by weight me excusing and coming up with reasons why I don't have good info.
I mean, it's also almost like it's by design.
Yeah. I mean, this also being a class that can turn invisible.
No, it also just, the less information gets out, the less chance of countering.
Yes, yeah, that too. I can imagine that the development was highly secretive, especially, because I'm actually getting a little ahead of myself. We can see it right here. What we know is that the Gleipnir class started development sometime during the Laesath Civil War. And while I normally leave a topic like that war to a show like Lions Led by Donkeys, I need to explain it here to give the Gleipnir the context it needs. The Laesath Civil War started in 2009 and rapidly became a complete clusterfuck of competing factions, alliances that constantly formed and disintegrated, and mercenary units fighting for every possible side, or multiple sides, at once. It ebbed and flowed over the years. Like, sometimes there would be a provisional government that could somewhat represent Laesath on the world stage. Like, sometimes there were semi-peaceful times, and then they would inevitably just fall apart. So if you've ever seen headlines about Laesath trying to buy the Uke Mega sub Alicorn back in 2012, and wondered, like, what do you mean the Laesath government? That's a country that's currently at war with itself. That's kind of what happened. Like, that was one of the very brief periods of limited peace in Laesath. I have an actual quote here from Frontline magazine that should shed some light on just what Laesath's fractious government was up to. Again, so 2012, we are 3 years into the Civil War.
Oh, that's got to be grinding at that point.
Yeah, and this quote is specifically about military analysts debating where the Alicorn submarine might go of the interested nations. Quote, and the next topic is, of course, the destination of this ship. Those in my profession believe that Laesath, Estivakia, and Aruja are the top contenders right now. My guess is towards Estivakia. Laesath is definitely strengthening its navy. However, the range of its activities is on the coastal level, and this ship will be too much for that. So, Laesath is a small nation. They are apparently in 2012 trying to rebuild a unified navy. However, they're sticking with, like, coastal cutters and stuff.
Admittedly, you got to start somewhere.
Yeah. And, of course, the Alicorn would eventually go to Aruja, as opposed to Laesath or Estivakia. Womp womp. Anyway, this brief peace did not last, nor did any of the ones after. Every time the war slowed or a given side stopped fighting long enough to rebuild their forces, they found an easy source of weapons, eager to get their troops back on the front lines for a very reasonable price. Enter Diego Gaspar Navarro, or DGN.
Simply him.
Party blower sound, Battle of Duty hit scan sound.
Mom, get the camera.
Oh my god. Continued square brackets. What if Trump what if Trump is a huge Ace Combat fan and believes that he can apply strange real rules to us? That you can win a war exclusively with air power. It happens all the time, and those wars are incredibly quick.
Don't touch the lathe of heaven, you asshole.
Also, for clarity, the Laesath Civil War goes on for I'm trying to figure out the proper adjective for this. Shocking amount of time. Consider how long every other war that you have heard about has lasted. the Laesath Civil War lasts 10 fucking years. Like, the Balkan War, every other war that we have talked about, every other superweapon is on the order of, like, months to a year. Belka is at war, blowing itself up for 10 years solid. But we were talking about DGN. Back then, Navarro was not the head of government, or even the head of a military faction. He was simply the owner and operator of Laesath's entire weapons economy. And I do mean entire. Among other tactics, Navarro leveraged his sway with the militarized factions to either blackmail his rivals or just have their factories bombed flat. So it was like blow up a warehouse and, you get a hefty discount on some new jets.
That is still wild.
Through this method, he was able to corner literally all, and there's no virtually here, all of the Laesath major weapons development and manufacturing was done through his companies. And he sold those weapons to every faction fighting. Yeah. I mean,
if I say too much against...
I have a note for this later, but like Diego to me is evil in a way that we have not seen, that is like awful, but also somewhat refreshing in a really fucked up way. He's not a gray man. He's not motivated by ancient Balkan revenge. He doesn't have a master
he's standing
scheme.
10 toes on the nonsense.
Yeah, he wants money, and he knows that more war equals more money. That is the start and end of this story. And again, it's almost refreshing in a way that there's not some like shadowy cabal behind this. It's just one dipshit who is going to plunge multiple nations into war.
The definition of if you fuck with the bag, I am going to have your factory leveled.
Yeah. And as more and more of Laesath was reduced to rubble, the military economy eclipsed everything else. When homegrown Laesathian weapons showed their age, Navarro came up with a scheme to get advanced foreign hardware into the country, stealing and reselling humanitarian aid. So yeah, this is also where I've got my note on this dude is evil as fuck. So financial and food aid from the Federal Republic of Aurelia to the south was swiftly redirected and sold by Navarro's companies. He then used that liquid cash to secretly import weapons from Ossia, Yuktobania, Erusia, Belka, Estevakia, you name it.
There it is, baby!
Oh, you thought Grunder wasn't getting involved in a war? A single war?
Fingers in every pie on the continent.
Woo! Just imagining like the Grunder rep coming in and going like, all right, so like what's your actual like secret scheme behind all this? And Diego's just like, I like money. That's kind of it. That's my bag. No, but like what's the secret behind the war? Money.
He's just going into the house, looking at everything, wondering, when you inevitably, shit the bed, how much can I sell this lamp for? Flogging your flat screen TV out the back of his 5th gen fighter. Hey, you want this? It's Samsung, 70 inches.
Yeah, paying exclusively in non-sanctioned Aurelian pesos.
You gotta script the sanctions somehow, baby!
Yeah, I mean... And while we do make jokes about DGN and how ridiculous he was, I don't want to sugarcoat this part. Navarro starved his own country of food and fed it guns instead. It is largely because of him that the war lasted as long as it did, because he did keep every faction fighting. He cut off arms. If a faction was doing too well, he'd cut off arms. If a faction wasn't doing well enough, he'd send them a couple of freebies. He, managed this war in such a way that it lasted as long as it did, and it made him by far the wealthiest man in Laesath.
Yeah, he's playing both sides, so he always comes out on top.
Specifically, something that drove this home for me was from Jeanette's reporting during the war. He noted that a single glass of wine that Navarro enjoyed daily, he was throwing these big parties in Griswold every single day, lauding their victory.
We all know the picture.
Yeah. That single glass of wine was worth more than a year's salary for the average Laesathian citizen. Just to kind of put this in context of how desperately poor Laesath was, and in large degrees still remains, while he funneled almost all, I don't know what the breakdown is, but the money was either going into his pocket or his weapons manufacturers.
There's a place called the Volzrike Mountains you might want to go to at a certain point in time.
Roll around in the snow a little bit.
I heard the lights are fantastic at an extremely certain point of the year.
So, long story short, by 2019 and the end of the Laesath Civil War, Diego Gaspar Navarro was by far the most powerful man in Laesath. He took full control of the government and immediately set about rebuilding the unified navy. of course with weapons bought from his companies at a hefty markup.
Yeah, I don't think we really we've hammered it home a lot, but just to put it into a little further, this dude has his hand in every bag, and he doesn't just have the soft power. No, this is whipping out the BlackBerry. I want a JNAM on that house, and then 10 minutes later, you have warheads on foreheads.
And just for me, specifically, the fact that while there's still ununified military factions during the Civil War, he'll sell them at a discount. He'll give you freebies. Once he owns the army, they're paying double for everything. They're paying licensing fees. They're paying, they're getting advertised at. And the crown jewel of Laesath's rearmament, at least publicly, was the Gleipnir airborne fortress. Considering that 2 units of it were ready by the time the Aurelian War broke out in late 2020, it's highly likely that construction and testing was already well underway before the Civil War ended. There is no way that they got all of this done in 1 year's time. And yes, there were 2 of them.
When I was thinking about what it reminded me of, what you just said before. It's literally like Trump, booking
square brackets.
You
know what I mean.
I know.
It's like the thing where like Trump goes places and then forces the Secret Service men or whatever to stay in Trump
hotel
properties.
Yeah,
and he just marks up the rates or some shit.
Yeah, I'm willing to bet that in Dubai there is a Trump hotel and the soldiers are paying several $1,000s a night to stay there. So what I was saying was that there are actually 2 Gleipnir units. The Gleipnir was the final result of the program, but it was preceded by the Gondar. Everything I can find confirms that the Gondar was a prototype and a technology demonstrator, but I don't really know what difference that makes since it seems to have been identical in performance to the Gleipnir itself. Brackets because it was rushed into war unready. Which is our other favorite thing on this show, having something ready for the holidays.
Chalk it up to the scoreboard.
Woo! I know it was written before. It was written before this war happened, so I am kind of wondering if DGN just read the story of BattleTech and decided that he wanted to be Stefan Amaris. Because he is following that to a fucking T.
Fuck. He realized he couldn't get the... What's it called? He couldn't get the... what are they?
Venus, the Matar.
No. There's Space Comcast.
Oh, and I should probably get to the names. Confusingly, both of these are based off of old Nordnavic myth. Same thing for the Fenrir fighter jet program that is going on kind of in the background during this time. The symbolism is also weird. Fenrir is the name of a colossal wolf in Nord mythology, a wolf so powerful that the gods bound it in unbreakable chains. Those chains are named Gleipnir, so Gleipnir, Laesath's newest superweapon,
are the chains,
is holding back Laesath's other new superweapon.
No, think of it like a limiter for DGN. If he uses more than 5% of his wealth, the world will just collapse. Like that Audemars Piguet he has.
Oh yeah.
No, he drops that thing, an entire nation will feel its GDP get creased.
I guess that's a benefit of Laesath hyperinflation of oh no, my money is worth 1 trillionth of an Osean dollar as opposed to 1 billionth of an Osean dollar. Cool. Awesome. I don't care anymore. Also, it does need to be said that there is some justification I have seen people come up with for the names, namely that because the Gleipnir was supposed to be used as a weapons demonstrator for Fenrir, it could be considered to be holding it back. I think that's stupid. Sue me. Even more confusing is Gondar, because Gondar's name comes from a mythical serpent that fought the god Thor at the end of the world, and then it got stomped fucking dead. And then later on, Thor died in bed from poison that Gondar had given it. Which, I don't know, if I were naming a superweapon, I would avoid naming it after a mythical figure whose most famous action was dying. I'd name it Kill Death Destructor or something, not...
Killfucker 5000.
Then again, life imitates art. In sci-fi, every time something bad happens on a ship, it's called Icarus for some reason.
every city that gets destroyed by a superweapon is called Prospero.
Yeah. Anyway, all of these things came to a head in late 2020. Diego Gaspar Navarro needed a new war to keep selling weapons to his own army. He'd spent the last year building a propaganda machine against Aurelia, blaming them for, quote, years of exploitation. He even blamed Aurelia for the misplaced aid money that he himself had stolen, saying that it was their corruption to blame.
I am sorry, but I just have the mental image of him just leaning into a camera. I'm gonna walk into that embassy and tell them I fucked their mother.
Yeah, just like dude with Aurelian pesos just like coming out of every single pocket telling you that like, I know, I really wish I could have given you that food aid.
The 3 millionth glass of wine in his hand.
Oh my god, him christening the Gleipnir, breaking a bottle of wine against its hull, and just watching like Laesath's GDP numbers take a 5% plunge.
Just right on the spot.
Yeah, right on the spot. It breaks the optical camo panel. Gleipnir, Gondar is back in repairs for a year and flies into war completely unprepared.
No, that's how they know exactly where it is. They just look for the one flying
the wine
hexagon.
stain in the... Oh, just replacing the cannon on a plane with a paintball gun to just be able to, like, optical camo? No, doesn't work anymore.
Nuh-uh. Fuck you mean nuh-uh?
So, meanwhile, the Gleipnir needed to see some action so that its weapons could be tested and their data fed back to Navarro's newest favorite superweapon, the Fenrir program. Because like any good dictator, as soon as he had his new toy that he had dump trucked the entire nation's economy into, he immediately decided that he was bored of it and he wanted something new that was even more expensive. And I'm going to say wildly impractical. The fact that the Fenrir, you know, I'm a parachute guy, not an aircraft guy, but the fact that the Fenrir's weaponry was so power intensive that they couldn't store it on the plane, and the plane had to be powered by a microwave emitter just to feed its batteries. You know, like, I feel like if I'm designing a fighter jet, it is a big problem if it has to stay within a kilometer of a microwave emitter.
But hear me out. It's got a cup holder for that wine.
Diego Gaspar Navarro just wearing one of those like beer helmets. Everyone else starving. He's just got 2 wine bottles.
No, he's just in a fucking ball of wine inside of it like a Dune navigator.
The Laesath space program. He would absolutely, like, if he were still in power now, he would be hopping a ride on like a private suborbital flight. So these are all of the things that are kind of coming to a head at the same time and pointing towards a war with Aurelia. And if an invasion of Aurelia just so happened to open up the country's vast mineral wealth to Diego Gaspar Navarro's companies, then maybe that was just a little bonus. So, in October 2020, 1 year after the end of the Civil War, the Democratic Republic of Laesath declared war on the Federal Republic of Aurelia and invaded. The Gleipnir would be the tip of the spear.
Gleipnir in action.
You guys are going to like this. Immediate name alert for the least Laesath name in history. Guy who is possibly a Belkan ace. I'm not entirely sure.
You clowned me at the start of this, and here I am reaping my rewards.
So the man to lead the invasion was Captain Frank Burlington of the Laesath Air Force.
Likely fucking story, buddy.
Yeah. My name is John Doe. I have never even heard of an Ustio.
What the fuck is an Ustian?
Again, though, we've talked about this, how, like, all of the best Raldite scientists and defectors and whatnot, they go to Osea in Yuktobania. So you have to be real, like, bottom of the barrel for Laesath to take you in.
May I introduce you to a microwave?
He just opens the door, turns it on, and Diego Gaspar Navarro's like, my God.
Skin just starts sloughing off. My God. The bottle or the glass of wine.
Boiling. He just puts a wine glass in it. It comes out slightly warmer. Like, whoa.
Can you do this in reverse?
Can you do this to a person? Now, Frank Burlington, Laesath native, born and bred, had been given command of the Gleipnir just 1 week prior to the beginning of hostilities. Normally, I'd say something like long story short to explain the war, but that doesn't really fit here because this was not a long story.
Short.
This is a very short story, even for like the dichotomy to me of you have possibly the world's longest modern war, the Laesath Civil War, a 1-year break, and then a fucking blitz into Aurelia.
It truly is beautiful though. Sometimes. Yes. Just, okay, cool, wait, the real fighting is actually happening. The curb stomp just gets kicked through him.
Laesath rolled into Aurelia, and the Aurelian military retreated or surrendered after a string of crushing defeats. Fearing an attack by the Gleipnir, Aurelia's capital Griswold surrendered without a fight. On top of its military power, the psychological effect of the Gleipnir was massive. At any time, the flying fortress could appear overhead, disengaging its optical camo and raining death. Anytime retreating Aurelian units stopped to regroup or counterattack, they were swiftly hit by shockwave ballistic missiles, which are colossal fuel air bombs the Gleipnir could launch hundreds of kilometers away. And I suppose this would be a good time to actually talk about the engineering that went into the Gleipnir, beyond it just being the largest flying vehicle ever constructed by humans.
It's not just big.
Yeah, there's more to it. Its design takes a lot of inspiration from other flying fortresses. Like the Estovaci and Igaion class, the Gleipnir is a giant flying boat, mainly taking off from oceans or rivers. Though it could use a runway if that runway was the longest ever made in human history. So mostly it took off from the water. Like the Ocean Arsenal birds, Gleipnir made extensive use of advanced tech. Like this thing could turn invisible.
God damn.
Unlike most other flying fortresses though, Gleipnir was not an aircraft carrier. It was purely its own strike craft. It was designed to operate mostly alone, sneaking up on the enemy under cloak before destroying them with shock weaponry.
I mean, that is its calling card, that big-ass cannon.
Yeah. Well, we'll actually talk about that. It doesn't use... The cannon remains largely unknown to Aurelian forces until the end, because it much prefers to use its missiles.
True. If he uses the cannon, it's got to be right over whatever it's firing at.
Or if they did use the cannon, there weren't any survivors to spread the story.
True.
That's probably part of it. There are reports from early on in the war, reports like a certain military base disappearing overnight and no one really knows what happened. It's entirely possible that they were attacked with the shock cannon. Now, on the shock front, you will often see this technology compared to like Ocean lasers or Yuktobanian burst missiles or other like big-ass energy sci-fi come-to-life energy weapons, meson stuff. The Aurelians actually put meson weaponry to use a couple of times around Griswold. But burst technology is actually pretty simple and elegant in comparison. Everything burst, at the end of the day, that the Gleipnir used was some kind of fuel-air explosive, just scaled up to like ludicrous levels. These work by aerosolizing a fuel around a target, giving it a bit of time to spread, and then igniting the whole thing in a giant fireball. Basically, think of holding a match in front of like the world's biggest can of bug spray, and that's kind of what we're talking here. So while it looks very cool in sci-fi, this thing is effectively just firing off a giant flamethrower every time it launches a missile or fires its cannon. Launched from the Gleipnir on top of ballistic missiles, the shock warheads could be detonated on the ground to wipe out Aurelian army units or airburst to wipe out AAF aircraft. And it was scarily effective against both, though it did have weaknesses. And for Aurelia in winter, I guess, well, no, this would be summer. The hemispheres, yeah, fuck it. I hate the southern hemisphere. Long story short, this weapon could not work in the wind or in the rain, and that would kind of become a problem in a windy, rainy nation.
Me going up in my cloud seeding plane, just throwing the finger at y'all.
Laesath cloud seeding is just like the world's longest fireball trailing behind a U-2. It's just very low intensity burst weaponry.
Hey, don't knock it till you try it.
If an enemy closed the distance with the Gleipnir, it had another trick. Built into the belly of the Gleipnir was a shock cannon. We kind of talked about this before. Despite looking like an alien death ray, it worked a lot like the burst missiles. Quote, prior to firing, the cannon spread a cloud of explosive gas. The cyclotron accelerator, which was unable to produce enough energy to act as a weapon by itself, would then send a directed meson discharge through the firing disc, igniting the cloud and causing a huge lateral explosion.
Whoa!
Which is incredibly cool. I love that this thing has a cyclotron, like a full-on particle accelerator on it and like a meson gun. But at the same time, this is like nuclear energy all over again of, we are cracking an atom, and what are we using it for? We're heating water. So like all of this, the Gleipnir has a particle accelerator on its belly, and all it is a giant spark plug.
It's a glorified Bic lighter.
Yes, that is all it's doing.
My weapon's strategic flaws are already answered by my eccentric dictator.
People keep asking me about why my weapon is so fucked up, but Diego is clearly right there. So, and again, yeah, just the fact that like that we are using a particle accelerator as a match just to light up the world's biggest blue angel. I know I shouldn't laugh about that because like this thing does kill thousands of people, but like
Diego
I mean,
Gaspar.
it's the fact that, like, that's kind of what we're breaking this down to.
Diego Gaspar Navarro's massive fart cannon. The Despicable Me.
Okay, no, we're fully sticking with this analogy. It's silent but deadly, because this is where we get to the optical camo. On top of being resistant to radar, like this is a stealth aircraft mostly, the Gleipnir could turn itself almost invisible to the human eye. This is part of what allowed it to sneak up on the Aurelian army or navy and literally appear overhead. The I don't know if it was quiet. That's the other thing. I don't know if the world's most powerful jet engines flying overhead and you look up and see nothing. It's kind of, oh, all right, well, it must have been the wind.
There's just a brown mist coming towards you. What the fuck is that?
It just looks like a huge cloud of smog flying through the air. So this stealth technology is another kind of thing that technically existed before. Like, this is something that has been around for decades, but it really took Laesath to perfect and apply it. You may have seen, like, there's a classic old internet video of a dude wearing an invisibility coat, where one side of the coat has cameras on it, and the opposite side is like a TV screen, and the TV screen shows what the cameras on the other side are playing, so it looks like he's invisible, kind of. And this is something that was being tested and, you know, is still like, you'll find a couple of university projects and whatnot doing this. Anyway, Diego coded the entirety of the world's largest flying vehicle, possibly just the world's largest vehicle, entirely in this shit.
God, that's like fucking 5 glasses of wine right there.
Yeah, we're just getting rid of the Laesath peso as a currency, and it's just like, if you own a grape, you're mayor of the city.
Would you like to come to my house and see my grape?
So yeah, if all of that sounds very expensive, just remember that the Laesath Air Force was never shy about paying its benefactor, Diego Gaspar Navarro, billions and or trillions of pesos.
What's the peso to Ocean dollar exchange rate again?
I don't know, man. I mean, we're probably talking some like wild hyperinflation to the point where it doesn't even matter anymore. Like, I'm willing to bet during this period, like, Laesath is fully in barter economy if you're trying to, like, get through the day. All told, the Gleipnir was an aerial command post, a ballistic missile launch system, and a sort of overgrown close air support thing, all wrapped up in one economy-destroying package.
But what a beautiful package.
Yes, yeah, and like, if we're talking the aesthetics, I do think it looks the coolest and sleekest of all of the flying fortresses. You know?
Nah, I'm sticking with Igaion.
You're sticking with Igaion? It's too spiky for me. I don't know. I don't like the multiple wings. I don't like the forward swept and backward swept.
Number one, it's got the flight deck on it.
It's an aircraft carrier.
Missiles.
It necessarily has to have that. You don't get extra points for something that your craft
has to have. It's a heavy command cruiser, you fuck.
It's like saying a tank looks good because it's got a gun.
Well, yeah, it does. That's just true.
So,
also, it has mid-air refueling, so eat that.
Gleipnir doesn't need that. Gleipnir runs on crude oil. I wish I was kidding.
Yeah. I bet you love rolling coal down there.
They're running the fucking thing on mazout.
I bet you love rolling coal down there.
Yeah. And for all of that, the Gleipnir was also frighteningly effective against the surprised Aurelian military. A substantial amount of Aurelian losses, army, navy, air force, everything, were inflicted by the Gleipnir alone. And yet there's a hidden story that was swiftly covered up by the Laesath propaganda ministry. Remember the Gondar that technology demonstrator that was never meant to actually fight.
Yeah.
Well, in October 2020, when the war started, Diego Gaspar Navarro ordered not only that the Gondar be rush-readied to fly and fight, but that it go in first ahead of the Gleipnir. This is over the protests of its entire design and engineering team, so I imagine those guys are either dead or they quickly found themselves in like a shock assault battalion.
They got turned into the wine.
Yeah. Oh my god, it's like that Hitman level.
The wine press. Yeah, it's my favorite thing. I love that. Putting every single NPC in the stage in there at once and like lagging the game when you compress them all at the same time.
Of course, a game was not prepared to be that Laesathian. Your hardware cannot handle Laesath at its best.
Laesath justice does go hard.
So the Gondar is sent in to fight, and it is not sent in ready. Early in the war, an Aurelian fleet was deployed to protect the capital of Griswold. Like we're talking like first or second day here before the capital falls. Gondar was deployed to sink that fleet with the aid of the LAF's elite Chimera squadron. But they were actually shot down by Aurelian fighters. Like this is, again, very, very early in the war. Aurelia is solidly losing, but they have not been fully mauled yet. There are still fleets, there are still squadrons active. And against all odds, they succeed in downing the Gondar, as well as all of the Chimera squadron members. And this is, immediately covered up, but this is the first substantial defeat that Laesath suffers in this month-long war roundabout. Unfortunately, Griswold still fell, because while the Gondar was busy getting shot down over the ocean, the Gleipnir erased a couple of Aurelian bases from existence, and suddenly defending the city became unfeasible. Or at least that's what the Aurelian government thought. I will remind you, maybe they would have lost. I'll remind you that Griswold has a fucking giant wall around it that is ringed with meson and laser cannons. I think they could have fought. Also, just note, audience, if any of you are interested in South Ossetia tourism, go to Griswold, go there for the light show and the fireworks, like Reclamation Day. They fire the lasers. They fire the meson cannons into the fireworks. It's fucking wild. Go see it. It is one of the most beautiful things I have ever seen, and it may have scorched my corneas a little bit.
I can't explain it, but I have the mental image of just the Tunguska, just like flattening level to the ground and whipping around just that with a laser.
I'm not entirely sure. I think it was one of their ways. I think it was Aurelia's attempt to stave off Ulysses fragments.
Mio blading the comet so it lands in your territory, not mine.
Sending it Laesath's way.
Quinn, how do you think that Strange Reel would handle a Seven Eves type scenario?
Ooh, I don't think they would be able to pull together.
What do you mean? They kind of did.
I mean, they survived they survived a single asteroid as opposed to the entire moon.
Just imagine the super weapons we would have gotten out of it, though.
Oh, but yeah, I think absolutely they would find a way to make the Arcbird interplanetary, and they would just go.
3 million chandeliers.
Using chandelier to like propel the Earth via recoil, basically remaking Wandering Earth. So, as they fought their way south, Laesath quickly conquered most of Aurelia within 10 days. The Gleipnir, its attacks and its sheer psychological weight made that possible. I cannot, exaggerate that. Day by day, more Aurelian units surrendered until all that was left was a sole airbase at Cape Aubrey in the west of the country. The Gleipnir, meanwhile, set itself up at the southern Terminus Islands. This is like as far south as you can get on the entire South Ossetia Peninsula. And again, this thing can run on crude oil. It was refueling off of the Aurelian oil field at Terminus.
Just slurping away.
Yeah, they're just piling up the mazout, and it is occasionally firing off like a burst missile strike here and there. With one last burst missile fired on Cape Aubrey, it seemed like the War of Conquest had been won in less than 2 weeks. But the Laesathians made the ultimate, classic military blunder ever since the existence of the aircraft. I know we are not a military history podcast, leave that to Lions Led by Donkeys, but like, as uneducated as I am and as we are, even I know this lesson. If you conquer an enemy and leave one base behind and then you attack it, you will summon a demon, I'm not superstitious. I don't think it's actually, like Rosgrees Reborn or anything, but like it happens a lot more than we would expect for pure random chance and rationality. There might be something going on here. What started as basically guerrilla attacks on the base at Puna Plains and Patterson Port swiftly became a massive Aurelian counterattack. And we talked about this a bit before. The Gleipnir had been so effective at scaring the Aurelians that entire units had surrendered without a fight. Now, though, that meant that all of those units were still intact and ready to fight, just waiting for some inspiration to kick in. In some cases, surrendered Aurelian units that had been ordered to sit still and await disarmament, they just picked up their guns and started shooting again.
Hell yeah. There
Which,
it is.
Maybe strictly that is technically a war crime, for a surrendered soldier to turn around and start shooting. But on the other hand, I'm certainly not going to levy,
fucking cursed.
If we're tallying war crimes, I think Laesath is a little ahead.
Yeah, they're just fucking running circles.
The initial Laesath victory had been so swift and decisive that they actually hadn't mauled the Aurelian military all that much, and they quickly came to regret that fact. Despite a consistent stream of burst missiles detonating over Aurelian units, the counterattack continued, and for the first time, the Gleipnir found itself under direct threat. The reporting gets a little murky here, some fog of war stuff that'll probably take years for the historians to resolve, but either the Gleipnir was attacked and damaged over the Terminus Islands, at which point it fled the battle, or it just escaped Terminus altogether before the Aurelians arrived. Regardless, it went north with Laesath forces to Santa Elva. This is an industrial city along the Lanal River, and Captain Burlington prepared to make his last stand here. Or maybe not his last stand. Regardless, Santa Elva became the new hub of a Balkan defense line against this renewed Aurelian attack. An attack they did. The Battle of Santa Elva was resolved quickly, but the losses for both sides were on the wrong side of hilarious. Advancing Aurelian tanks found the city seemingly abandoned and assumed the Gleipnir must have fled. Then it materialized above them and fired its shock cannon, vaporizing dozens of vehicles in one shot. This was a huge surprise for the Aurelians because remember, like I said, if the Gleipnir had fired its shock cannon before, it didn't leave survivors to tell the tale. So whenever this happens in the Battle of Santa Elva, this is the first documented and confirmed case of the Gleipnir firing its cannon immediately above an Aurelian unit. And this kicks off what is effectively a really weird game of cat and mouse, where the Gleipnir would cloak, fly over to a different Aurelian unit, uncloak,
light a fart.
Yeah, and then fire its fart cannon, fire the Blue Angel. But every time, because it could only fire the cannon whenever it was uncloaked, that was a weakness of it. But every time it did uncloak, it was rapidly swarmed by Aurelian fighters, including the Griffiths Squadron, I believe I may be mispronouncing that. I guarantee you I'm mispronouncing that, actually, of the original fighter ace that had started this whole counterattack in the first place. I know we're getting into the action, but I did want to interrupt for a quick little theory here.
Ooh.
And I wanted to posit it to you guys and get your opinions. I think being in command of a super weapon does something to a person's brain. I think it makes them stupider. I think being in charge of a super weapon can have like medically detectable effects on a human brain.
No, I agree. It's literally the same thing as like being a billionaire makes you fucking broken.
Like it's literally the same thing every day.
Yeah, it's like getting kicked in the head by a horse every day. Exactly.
So hear me out. Have you ever seen that one video of a dude riding a lawnmower and just screaming, "I have the power of God" with a handgun as he's driving towards a cop car?
Extrapolate that out.
Yeah, just this right here. This is you on the bridge of the Gleipnir, just uncloaking.
Hell yeah. I have the power of God.
So I bring this up because combat footage and intercepted radio transmissions from the battle show Captain Frank Burlington acting, I'll say, erratically and giving completely batshit orders.
Yeah, he had the revolver on the lawnmower.
At one point, to try and get the fighters off of its back, the Gleipnir fired shock missiles at itself. It launched ballistic fart missiles at itself and took severe damage doing so.
Awesome.
And this didn't work, because one of the interesting things about the shock technology is that it explodes laterally, which generally means that, like, it only works within a certain altitude band, based on where it detonates. So all these fighters just flew underneath the Gleipnir, and they were safe.
My super weapons tactical disadvantages are already explained by my has a eccentric trillionaire dictator t-shirt.
When its missile ports were then taken out, Frank tried to turn the Gleipnir's belly-mounted cannon on the fighter jets.
Yeah.
He flew the Gleipnir upside down to do this. He flipped it on its fucking back and started firing off the fart cannon. And it didn't work for the same reason as the last time didn't work. You just get below it and you're safe. Piece by piece, the Gleipnir was stripped of its defenses and technology. And that's when, with nothing left but the ship's damaged shock cannon, Frank Burlington made a decision that I think earns him one of the highest pillars in hell.
One of the lowest trenches?
Yeah. I mean, apologies for the dramatic tone shift there, but, like, you know, we got to be serious whenever serious stuff comes up. And we know this because this is all captured on radio transmissions, although by now I think he was just transmitting openly. Screaming about the might of Laesath, he ordered his crew to turn the cannon on Santa Elva itself, intending to wipe out the city and tens of thousands of residents, if not hundreds of thousands. Thankfully, a combination of Aurelian ground forces and the fighter squadrons managed to destroy the cannon before it could fire. Trailing smoke, heavily damaged, and out of control, the Gleipnir glided into the Lanal River, where it detonated a safe distance from the city. It's not known, like, specific survivor or casualty numbers. I would imagine that something the size of the Gleipnir would have escape mechanisms of some kind. I also know deranged dictators who either believe, like, well, if they get shot down, it's their own fault and they should die, or it's invincible. It will never be shot down.
If you offer them escape mechanisms, they will not fight hard enough to keep it flying.
Yes. So, again,
plug the holes with your bodies.
There are confirmed survivors, but Frank Burlington goes out in a blaze of glory, failing to kill thousands of civilians. Womp womp fucko. Again, apologies for the dramatic shift in tone so close to the end. This is one of those things of talking about weapons where it's like, it can be the funniest story, but at the end of the day, you do have to reckon with, like, the casualties, the human cost. So, assuming that it was formally activated around the time that Captain Burlington was given command, the Gleipnir was operational for around 1 month. And yet, it wrought immense damage in that very short time and came very close to killing thousands of civilians. I'm not going to go super in-depth with the rest of the war, since those are all the parts that you can just find in the newspaper these days. The loss of the Gleipnir forced Laesath back even further north, building a defensive line around Griswold, which then promptly fell. This is like the laser light discoteca stuff I'm talking about. There's some great historical pictures of this. With his superweapon destroyed and his new party place recaptured, Diego Gaspar Navarro fled back to Allendal, the capital of Laesath, and Aurelia was free. This is about, I want to say, like a month and a half into the war. Fighting definitely continued. After the withdrawal, a bunch of Laesath units were left behind. Some of them surrendered, some of them kept fighting. You know, it's any war. But back in Laesath, Diego Gaspar Navarro had a new plan. He had a new favorite weapon. Remember, as soon as the Gleipnir's done, he gets bored of it. He doesn't give a shit. He wants Fenrir.
Yeah, he wants the wine cup holder he paid for.
He wants the giant flying microwave that he paid trillions upon trillions of pesos for. And again, I will save this for a future topic. We will probably talk about it sometime. Suffice to say that when it comes to Fenrir, things do not go good for Diego Gaspar Navarro. And I think that is where we are going to call it right here, on the history of the Gleipnir, Laesath's flying Blue Angel cannon, I guess. The silent but deadly Blue Angel cannon. How we all feeling?
The shark that broke a nation.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I love it. It's so stupid.
Yeah, I mean, we started off kind of flailing there, but we found a bit by the end.
Yeah, we locked in a little bit.
Yeah. And like, I'm trying to think of other weapons that it had if we could like diversify a little bit, but it kind of didn't. It had some like SAM launchers and a couple of like AA guns on the wings, but that's par for the course. That's like Flying Fortress 101.
Yeah. Listen, it may not be my favorite Flying Fortress, but it's got a little place.
So you mentioned that the Igaion is your favorite for looks. Does that hold true overall?
Does it? Yeah.
Okay.
I think it holds true overall.
I gotta say, Gleipnir's mine. Chris, do you have a favorite?
It's also the Igaion's fleet. Yeah.
Okay.
You can't forget the escorts.
Yes, it is a fleet. They're sister classes.
Yeah, the Kodos are the electronic warfare ships, and the Gaijus are the flak ships.
Fat lot of good it did them.
But no, also up there is the Arsenal Birds.
Of a war that I have no personal stake in.
Just putting another gold medal up there.
I've got family in fucking Estovaki. I'm probably gonna hear some things about this.
The Arsenal Bird's also absolutely up there.
I don't like the Arsenal Bird. I don't know. I'm not a fan of them. I don't like drones.
You don't like them? No, you don't like it because you don't like them beaming 5G into your skull.
But we already established better ways of using that 5G, which is powering Diego Gaspar Navarro's microwave plane. But yeah, listener, audience, thank you so much for listening to this. Square brackets, patron, thank you so much for listening and supporting the real-world, non-strange real show of Failure to Launch. Please do not consider switching your support to the strange real version of the show. We will not get that money. And with that...
the Paisley class superweapon.
But yeah, thank you so much for listening, and goodbye.
Goodbye.
Adios.
Thank you for listening to another episode of Failure to Launch, and a big shout out to all of our top tier patrons. Our cyborg cats are Asha Rin, Boss, Katiga Reptile, Charlie, Comrade Sleepy Bro, Daniel F, Graham E, Jesselyn T, George 2, Spock's sleek spaceship slides sedately circling the solar system, Joss, Kamo, Lane of the Wired, Matt, Mobius Striptease, Murray Motorsports, Mysterious Stranger, Numbered Negative, Oil Drum, Pat, Paul C, Rare Scrungle Spingus 3rd Edition, Skylab Bricks, Source Force, Spectre Cohen, Tortilla Darren, Vivek D, and Wingsmith. Our space dogs are A Union Thug, A. Blinken, Akiogo, Ariel Badger Release, Agent Carter, Alex, Alice N, Andrew K, Angie, Angry Old Man Yada Yada, Anthony C, Atomic Hobbit, Autofox, Avocado Assassin, Baron M, Batday, Ben L, Big Meg, Binary Badger, Beamy, Boomzilla, Boring Brian, C, Cantaloupe Was Taken, Chainsaw Snuggling, Charlotte M, Chris K, Christian K, Clay M, Cole C, Captain Lag, Daddy Bongo, Daniel, Darth Baby, David L, Does Smiley, Dom K, Drain Damage, Dr. Shockmaster, Duke of New York, Hank, Aaron, Eric J, FBH, Fractal Moonlight, Furious Luddite, George B, Grant K, Griffin, former snow shoveler of Burger King, Heiko S, Howl's Moving Pictures by Rush. I heard Stephen Miller is a pedophile. Isn't that crazy? I hope you have a good day. Ian R, Iggy Noranis, JMM, James A, James C, James T, Jamie K, Jarl Breadmaker, Jerry M, Jedediah D, Joanne's Man, Miss You Forever, John C, John E, John Boy D, Johnny Terrors, Jonathan G, Jonathan W, John Tastic 286, Joseph RH, Just Morse, Kate B, Kate D, King Bun, Corbin the Dog, Cruzzy, Lens Wipe, Lorgath, Luke O, Alexon's PC, Majestic Affect, Man Who Is Average, Mar, Marigold Muskrat, Marto, Metgirl Alley, Michael C, Michelin Star Blemfro, Mish, Mr. Dr. John, Moomin Instrumentality Project, Narrow Ebb, Melly W, New Name, Nicholas S, Nick S, Norman W, Northeast Driver, NSFW NSA, Outlook Cub, Panda, Pat S, Patron, Pim, Poop Butt, Pop Vector, Randall, Ray H, RBK, Rayto B, Riley, Robert G, Sailor of Fortune, Scott K, Sean F, Sean H, Sensual Kazoo, Sean P, Silly Vixen, Skyhawk, Something, Sparks, Spirit of Thunder, Starlight Foxalope, Swan, The Best Sean, Thomas M, Tim P, Toasty Ken, Trash, Barash T, Brisk, Will W, William O, William P, Winston P, Founter S, Zachary J, Zap, Zemo, Zim, and Zombie Dwarf. Albert Count 219. Thank you for listening to another episode of Failure to Launch. If you want to follow us, we are Failure to Launch on Blue Sky, on FT Launch Pod on Instagram. We also post our episodes with visual aids at Failure to Launch Podcast on YouTube. FTL intro and outro themes were provided by DJ Danarchy.